Welcome, everyone. Today, we are presenting a webinar guide for individuals who are interested in fostering a child for the first time. Daniel is an 11-year-old child of mixed racial descent. He lived with his biological parents and younger brother and sister until he was 5. He and his siblings witnessed loud, aggressive arguments between his parents, and when he was 5, his father left the home permanently. During this time, his mother began to use drugs. The house they lived in fell into serious disrepair with no electricity, heat, or running water. He and his siblings did not eat regularly and did not always attend school because their mother would forget to take them. Eventually, the children were removed from the home. The 2 boys were placed with their father and his new wife, and their younger sister was eventually reunited with their mother, who was in treatment. Sometimes Daniel feels that his mom must love his sister more. Daniel and his brother were able to see Mom on weekends and revealed to her that they were being sexually abused by their father. While Daniel is a highly intelligent and creative child, he is exemplifying severe emotional dysregulation. Sometimes, when he feels angry or feels like no one is listening, he throws chairs and tears decorations and pictures off the walls. He bullies smaller children and has been reported as inappropriately touching another child. The stress of this situation eventually triggered his mom, who has started using again. Daniel has again been removed from his mother and is now also separated from his brother and sister. During this presentation, we are going to learn about what you can expect as a potential foster parent of a child who has likely experienced some degree of trauma. Like Daniel, they have learned to survive in an unsafe environment and may have developed coping strategies that seem unusual or counterintuitive. Like Daniel, they have complex relationships with their biological parents and may not know how to receive love. Trauma can stunt a child's development socially, cognitively, emotionally, and physically. While trauma can have a measurable effect on a person's neurological functioning, it is important to remember that these effects can be reversed and that healing is possible. There are 3 responses when the brain perceives an immediate threat: fight, flight, or freeze. Remember Daniel's angry outbursts and aggressive responses. Something in his environment makes him feel threatened, and his response was to fight. A person may also choose to run or freeze. Think of a deer in the headlights. It is important to remember that no matter what the response, it has a function designed to keep the child safe. Trauma is an event or series of events which make a person fear that their life and/or safety is in danger. It can include physical, sexual, emotional, and/or verbal abuse or neglect, as well as witnessing or being exposed to violence. For some children, being removed from the home is a trauma in and of itself. Fostering is a situation in which a child, due to circumstances within their home, is forced into the care of someone other than their parents. By nature of these occurrences, many children who enter the foster care system have experienced at least one traumatic event. For example, studies have found that as many as 80.3% of foster children have encountered a traumatic event in their lifetime, and 66% have experienced 2 or more. More specifically, the study found that 40% have seen someone killed or injured, 30% had been physically attacked, 27% had been molested, and 26% had been threatened with a weapon, kidnapped, or held captive. Additionally, research shows that foster children are at an elevated risk of developing PTSD. One study found that as many as 30% of foster children met criteria for PTSD compared to just 7.6% of the general population. The literature has also specified that those who have been sexually abused were at the highest risk of developing PTSD, with 64% of sexually abused sample meeting criteria. The risks that foster children experience continue beyond their time in foster care system as well. In Pennsylvania, about a quarter of foster children who age out or leave the foster system at 18 years old experience homelessness, mental health problems, or end up arrested. For the sake of time, we're not going to go through this chart, but please feel free to reference it after this webinar if you want to see a flowchart of how a child moves through the Philadelphia child welfare system. To care for children in foster care, you must pass child abuse, criminal history, and FBI clearances, be physically able to care for a child, have space in your home for an additional child, and be at least 21 years of age. You must also attend an orientation at your chosen agency, complete 6 hours of training, and have a social worker come to your home to help determine if it is safe for a child. The requirements for kinship parents do differ slightly from the above mentioned. There are 26 licensing agencies that DHS works with for foster care in Philadelphia. Each agency has slightly different requirements, specialties, and training programs listed above for you to refer back to as needed. Foster care payment is provided to you for the care of the child. Provider agencies usually issue checks on a monthly basis. The amount is based on the level of care appropriate and approved for a particular child or youth. Private agencies handle clothing purchases and special allowances differently. Ask your social worker for their policy. All children receive medical coverage through Medicaid. Behavioral mental health services, such as drug and alcohol treatment, are provided to children and youth in foster care through community behavioral health services. Routine transportation costs are the responsibility of the foster parent and are factored into the monthly foster care payment. Children should be eligible for state subsidies to assist with child care expenses. Also, Head Start and early intervention programs are available for young children in foster care. The City of Philadelphia provides a lot of resources for foster care parents. Some of the most useful to know about are the Quality Parenting Initiative, which works with systems and other key stakeholders to provide relevant tools, resources, practices, and policies that help foster parents be successful. The Education Support Center supports the educational needs of children and youth involved with DHS by addressing education-related problems including truancy, transportation, support for children with special needs, and child care services for daycare and aftercare. Parenting education and support groups, which we will talk about in more detail later on. Before we go into how foster parents can serve their children in a trauma-informed manner, here's a quick video to help you further understand trauma and its effect on children.
That half of all mental health problems begin in childhood, before the age of 14. And one of the things we're looking at is how experiences of early adversity, such as domestic violence and maltreatment, can lead to changes in brain structure and function that can embed long-term vulnerability to mental health problems. It's something we're calling latent vulnerability. Those who had been exposed to maltreatment and domestic violence showed heightened patterns of activation in those brain regions related to threat vigilance and threat detection. And what was striking is that we see the same pattern in other studies done by other groups where they have looked at soldiers before and after combat. And that might help both the soldiers and the children function in those environments, but the difficulty is that it may also embed long-term vulnerability. We believe it is reversible. We know that many children who experience abuse and neglect and domestic violence have a resilient and positive outcome, and we expect that their brain will change and respond to positive emotional experiences such as social support and being in a secure and safe environment.
So, what does being trauma-informed mean? Trauma-informed care understands and considers the pervasive nature of trauma and promotes environments of healing and recovery rather than practices that may inadvertently re-traumatize. We suggest first-time foster parents to parent with the intent of always being trauma-informed. This will be vital in creating a healing space in the home. Next, we will talk about steps you can take to help children build resilience and overcome the effects of traumatic stress. By understanding trauma's impact on the children in your care, you can work to identify ways to address challenging behaviors and help children develop new and positive coping skills. Helping your child feel safe and reassuring them by creating a structured, predictable environment. By providing calm, consistent, loving care, you set an example and teach children to define, express, and manage their emotions to help your child understand and manage overwhelming emotions. Help your child see the links between their thoughts, feelings, and actions and take control of their behavior. Support your child's positive and stable relationships. Help your child hold on to what is good about existing attachments, reshape them, and make new meaning from them. Engaging in shared parenting will help you do this. In addition, help children build new, healthier relationships with yourself and others. Help children overcome negative or distorted beliefs about their histories by being a safe listener for them. Work with them to build bridges across the disruptions in their lives. Being trauma-informed means being sensitive with the language we use in communicating with children who have experienced trauma and have been living in foster homes. Here are some ways you can communicate with your child to make them feel safe and comfortable. What has happened to you? What do you think? What can you learn from this? I can hear you're frustrated. It sounds like you're saying. By following the 5 principles of trauma-informed care, you can create a nurturing, welcoming, stable home environment to help your foster child flourish. A top priority for working with foster youth is ensuring their physical and emotional safety. Within the home, ensure that common areas are welcoming and privacy is respected. Encourage your child to participate in healthy play and exercise and teach good eating and sleeping habits. For healthy emotional development, it's important that your child has some degree of choice and control, creating a sense of agency and autonomy. In the home, you can ask children about their favorite foods, their bedtime routines, hobbies, games, television shows, and favorite things to do. This will allow children to make choices and be heard in their new home. Give your child age-appropriate choices, such as allowing them to pick what toy they want, the color of their clothes, or where to go for a family outing. To teach your child strong interpersonal and social skills, collaborate and make decisions alongside your child. To help your child to develop strong social relationships with other members of your household and peers, provide simple basic rules for self-care and personal responsibility, asking for their input as you craft expectations together. Talk openly with the child about the relationships and friendships he or she is developing, particularly if your child has been enrolled in a new school as a result of foster care placement. To help your foster child to learn to trust you as a caregiver, being clear, consistent, and setting firm but purposeful boundaries is key. Children who faced abuse or neglect in infancy or early childhood may not develop secure attachments to a caregiver. They may see adults as being inconsistent or unreliable, so it's important to set and stick with boundaries so children come to internalize home expectations. Again, consistency over time is key. Prioritizing responsibility and skill building will help your child feel empowered. Ensure your child frequently feels validated and affirmed. Over time, gradually increase the level of responsibility your foster child is given at home. Make sure tasks and expectations are challenging enough to instill a sense of accomplishment, yet manageable so your child can experience a boost in self-esteem. Let me introduce Sophia. Sophia fears women, including teachers, won't go to school near home, hides, and leaves home without permission. Sophia's trauma is acute due to sexual abuse. She is showing a flight response when she leaves the classroom, goes to the nurse, etc. The female math teacher may remind her of her abuser, who was a 21-year-old female neighbor. How Sophia's behavior may have been protective in the past. It may have allowed her to escape from her abuser, as in when she ran to her grandmother when she came to pick her up. Here is a common saying: you can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first. What should I expect when I take in a child with a trauma history? It's important to remember that the child may not be able to immediately reciprocate your love and affection. This is okay. Just be patient and remember that many of the emotions and behaviors they display are more of a reflection of where they are coming from than a failure on your part. It can be very difficult to bear witness to a child who is suffering and feel like you can't do enough. This is a normal way to feel. It is important to exercise self-compassion and remember that you are only human. Positive participation in their life is an important part of the child's healing. Here are some suggestions for self-care that may be helpful. Self-care can look different for different people, but it is important to build it into your day. Affirmations are things you can say to yourself to improve your emotional well-being. Studies show that repeating positive affirmation throughout your day can have a positive impact on your well-being. Deep breathing brings your heart rate and blood pressure down. As you care for your child, don't forget to care for yourself, including the basics like eating well and exercising. We all have things that we bring with us into our relationships. Don't forget to ask for help. Many foster parents choose to go into therapy to help them as they cope. Keeping a calendar of your foster child's various appointments that is visible to the whole family can also reduce stress. Taking a moment to pause. Be aware of your limits and how you respond to things. If you feel yourself becoming mad, stop and try one of these things before responding. Try taking a deep or several deep breaths before responding. Focusing on your breathing can be a fast way to calm your body. If that doesn't work, remember you can walk away and leave the situation until you can collect yourself. If you need to, seek out support from someone outside the situation who can provide an informed but objective opinion. Just remember to never respond in the same unregulated way your child is, like yelling, screaming, throwing things, or slamming doors. It is important that foster parents are aware of their resources and know how to find support with the challenges of being an effective, positive caregiver. There are several key resources which provide the information that foster parents need during the challenges they may face. The National Foster Parent Association is a nonprofit organization that addresses the concerns of foster parents and child welfare professionals to provide foster families with opportunities for advocacy, networking, and education. The Child Welfare Information Gateway offers a national foster care and adoption directory search and provides helpful agency and support group resources by state. The Parent Action Network provides a variety of parent support groups in location throughout Philadelphia. These groups are led by trained facilitators and frequently feature guest speakers on topics of interest. Information and referral services are also available. All groups are free of charge to Philadelphia residents and can serve as a useful resource for foster families looking for more support. These are all valuable resources for foster families looking to find more information, whether in finding support, literature, education, and advocacy. The City of Philadelphia provides free support groups and parenting classes for foster families. Respite is another helpful option for families. It is short-term care that allows parents and guardians to take a break from the daily routine and stress of caregiving. For the sake of time, we aren't going to go into more detail, but wanted to recognize how these free resources have been beneficial to foster families in the past. Thank you so much for your interest in fostering a child and for taking the time to join us here today. You have the opportunity to make a huge difference in the life of a child in need in Philadelphia. As we wrap up, we want to remind you again that the slides for this webinar will be available to you after we finish, and we want to encourage you to reference back to any slides you want to review for your own benefit. Thank you.